and this is second consecutive part of a video of a second live that I was doing just now, and I was interrupted by the bandwidth, or the connection failed. But I wanted to keep rolling with the train of thought as much as I still have it on my mind, and I can keep being creative with it, and then continue the riff. No, so it's like if you're like doing a performance, and then the damn power go out. It's like, oh, please don't mind deading time. Sorry, here go the riff again. But so I wanted to keep rolling with the thought. But what I was saying is that you're so you're so there's you can do anything. What I want to say is that we as human beings, we are simply creative. We come from and we aspire towards, I think we come from and we're driven by our standpoint of being communal of being a sexual being. We're sexual beings, and a lot of the things that we aspire for and the driving force of a lot of our activities, of our choices, are something to do about being sex and wanting to be. All of life actually itself is a combination of attraction and repulsion. You can say that nothing moves in a straight line because all things that exist are a function of some form of cycle and also travel by means of some form of cycle. So there's nothing that exists in a straight line, and that too, nothing without a static support. But then also, nothing is compelled, other than implications of attraction and repulsion, maybe indifference too. You could say indifference too, because for example, like if you have water, right? I was reaching for this in another video. The reason that water is so good for our bodies, like people, it's kind of interesting, right? Like people would say that people present water like it's nutritional. Like, don't forget to eat all your fruits and vegetable and also drink enough water. But the water is it's not actually in itself nutritional. It's like the value of water is that it is it's well balanced. Water is well composed, and it's very the composition of water and the attraction and repulsion within water itself is such that it's very viable for the processes of the human body, because the similar to relationships, the way that chemicals bond, there's two ways that so chemicals come into interaction with each other, right? So do human beings. As a human being, like someone just pulled up next to me, and I don't know what the hell they're doing pulling up next to me in a drive-through parking lot that they skipped the drive-through and the door is closed. So I'm getting the hell away from that person, because that person just repelled me because their actions don't make sense to me. But also like different that happens with people in groups, but also with with chemicals themselves, which are the foundation of people and groups and anything. So a chemical can have a covalent bond or a polar bond. When it has a covalent bond, that's kind of like if you can imagine a relationship where you're a partner with someone, but you're actually sharing. By the time that you would kiss someone, actually, by the time that you would exchange a touch with someone, a mere touch with another person, you can't help but to identify with the sensation of a touch, because a touch is about as proximate and also therefore meaningful as it can get. Because in nature, if something or someone is touching you, that is the soonest way to impact your standpoint and experience of existing. If a person can touch you, they can knock you upside the head, or have cause you to fall and knock you upside of the head. You're out of here. Soon thereafter, being touched by someone physically, it may start as a nudge, as a shove, as a punch, as a kick. If somebody's touching you at all for any reason physically, that can soon imminently lead up to you losing your life potentially in nature. Any person with a sturdy self-defense background or safety conscious background can appreciate that. But so too, also sexually, if a person were to touch you in nature prior to being domesticated civilly, when we were what's called feral, for lack of a better word, if there's any contacting going on physically, right, between a man and another man, or a man and a woman, there can be implications of life and death, because that touch can lead to that woman being attracted to that man. If she were attracted to him, she could fall out with her husband. He could be at odds with the group, or he could be compelled to be at odds with that man, because by the mere fact that he is socially associated with her, and that too physically, your social, by the time that you're thinking about another woman, you're already mixed up in, you're already dealing with her if she's in your life. But if you touch her or are touched by her, you're it's consummated. So if a woman would touch you for any reason, if you touch a woman for any reason, your attraction and interest is consummated. You are now dealing with her. You are somewhat subject and liable to her reputation and her standing in a group. You as a man, by your interest, and your interest, which is a form of associating, but that too, you're being contacted or contacting a woman. You are now associated with her formally in front of a group. You could be called to fight for her. You could be embarrassed by her touching another man or communicating with another man, such as your honor is at stake, your standing in a group is at stake, your physical safety in a group is at all, existing at all in a group at all is in jeopardy by the mere fact that touching had went on. That's some of the sophistication of how profound touching is, but not all of it. But the mere fact that you would touch a person, you've now been associated, you identify with that touch. A lot of the times that people have a problem, people that are understanding themselves as traumatized by being touched or touching, is that they're identified with the touch and they can't get past that identity, and that identity is stifling their natural instincts to express themselves. They're bound by expressing themselves differently than their instincts dictate, as it would not suit them and the way they would like to interface based on their inherent and natural proclivities of disposition, that it's affecting their ability to interface and therefore be interfaced with and experience life. It's very profound like that. So so that you've exchanged touch at all, you're now bonded at all. But then if you have a physical effect, like property of some kind, a physical artifact, hey, give me something to remember you by. That's another escalation in dealing with the person, and it's very similar to the touch like that, and that you identify with it, but also that mere physical object also has implications of life and death. That object could serve you as a charm, as a grace that impacts your standing in a community, that could in fact impact any other level of your life, like along the lines that I've been talking, or it can have implications of helping you to survive an environment or get you in trouble in an environment. So that you would exchange anything physical is very serious, or not serious, but it's very meaningful. According to Mickey Royal, a former street personality and panderer, man of leisure, he spoke to some of that reality, in that if a person is willing to give you anything that you can touch, you can have any degree of association and bonding with them. Based on that, they would engage you. They were compelled or interested in you enough to interface with you enough to give you something you can touch like that. But once you've touched someone or been touched by someone, have something that you have a real experience of being touched by and exchanging something, whether that be intimate contact or a physical effect. That's like a covalent bond, because you're sharing something and you're also changed by the nature of that sharing. But then a polar bond would be like you're bonded, you're just simply attracted. You're attracted to someone, but you haven't yet compromised yourself by sharing with that person. Water is the bonding within water it's such that I think it's a unique combination of both polar and covalent, but more so polar, is that the molecules of water, they're bonded to one another, they're attracted to one another, but they're not compromised by their being attracted. That is, they're not sharing anything, such as that water can seamlessly move from liquid to gas to solid in a unique range of temperature, unique unto water, that is viable for the temperatures of the human body, that are viable for the other processes of the human body that make organic life possible at all, that are complementary within water and viable within the ranges and temperature that water has, the sophistication that it does while it is at room temperature like that, or the temperature that's viable for a human being. Also, the earth itself is largely composed of water and unique among the local planets for that fact. And also, that's why likely Earth is the home and the seat of life as we know it, because Earth is the most predominantly composed of water of the planets locally as we know them. That too, water, the Earth abroad is uniquely polar bonded to itself. It has a unique composition of being polar bonded. Why water means water like that. But so I wanted to point that out, but I a little bit diverged with that. But so all of us in life, all of life itself is a function of being attracted and compelled, and all things are some unique iteration existing upon being attracted and repelled, but you have a little bit of indifference within that is also meaningful and makes life possible. Life makes life what it is. But within human beings, it's similar in that these implications of being attracted and compelled at all times. We're being attracted. Like right now, I'm taking my ass somewhere. I just got repelled by my experience somewhere else, and now I'm taking myself somewhere else where I'd be more attracted to a better place to be than next to a jackass loitering. Although I was already loitering before that, but I'm being compelled to impelled to leave a vicinity based on my appreciation or lack thereof of another user of a parking lot, to transport myself to something that's attracting me for any reason at all at night. That's a function of being repelled and attracted, such as all of life. But so to each their own within that. You can be attracted to anything, and it's good to go if you enjoy it. But what I meant to say is that it's very significant that you'd be able to interface and express yourself as you feel. So if you can imagine what's frightening a lot of people, like a lot of men, is like, man, I had some friends back in the day that, hey, if you had been locked up, if you had went away upstate, right? What the hell would you do if somebody came up to you and they try to get a little bit friendly with you, right? You're isolated with the person. What the hell would someone like you do if you were confronted like that? You there. My friend said something like that. My friend was like, man, I would just make it feel gross, man. I'd be like, man, that's whack, man. What are you trying to do, man? That's whack. That's what my friend had said, right? At that time, that was a formidable thought, man. What the hell would you do if somebody ran up on you like that, in privacy like that, as you were upstate, or you were in a different situation like that? What the hell would you do like that? So most people, I imagine most men, see, a lot of people are grown and shit, but a lot of people are exactly grown, but they're scared of a cigarette, and they're scared of a European cigarette. Are you man enough to stare down and confront and be confronted by a cigarette and or a European cigarette? You there, grown ass man. Can you handle being accosted and approached with a cigarette or a European cigarette? Do you got that in you like that? But it's interesting because a lot of people are exactly afraid of a cigarette, right? It's a deeper thing, is that some people say that people who like cigarettes at all or attracted to cigarettes at all have a oral fixation. That's deeper than it seems. So a lot of people are afraid of cigarettes in the first place because they're understood as unhealthy. But a lot of people enjoy cigarettes because of the sensation of a cigarette, which is understood as an oral fixation, but also their appeal and attraction that comes with that, and the lifestyle that comes with that. That's also part of other people being ran off by cigarettes. So you like cigarettes, but you're somewhere where only people that like cigarettes and ain't afraid of cigarettes and having an oral fixation would be, to have the cool counter sensation that a lot of people that understand themselves as not having an oral fixation are attracted to, and don't get to have the experiences that are attendant of somewhere where cigarettes are going on and oral fixations are going on. That's significant. But that too, a lot of people would also be intimidated by being confronted by the proposition of a European cigarette somewhere, right? I'm being rhetorical or humorous with that European cigarette. I think that's a idiomatic expression that it's a reference to homosexuality as being reminiscent of being fancy like a European cigarette. But what I meant to say is that you wouldn't appreciate that might actually be a blessing. Someone comes to you, hey man, do you get down like that? What actually do you get down like, if anything? Can you be that honest with me? They're giving you an opportunity to express for yourself, to say out your mouth for yourself how you feel about something. How do you feel about, hey man, I'm kind of attracted to you and I don't know how to tell you that, and we're the same gender like that. How do you feel about that? You and me, do you want to do something or not? Or they might even say or not, but then you stand up for yourself. No man, I actually like that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that's cool. But right now, I'm on my different stuff where I need to conserve my power to get onto the standpoint that I want to be at before I would share my power. That's where I'm at. So you actually were just afforded a blessing to express yourself and get to express yourself better by being out in the open with who you are. At some point, you might have been you were somehow embarrassed by who you are, or you weren't afforded enough respect of a challenge or respect to get to say who you are about something. So a challenge can be an opportunity and a prompting to express yourself. but you can't express yourself in different venues for different purposes as well as you may until you had the opportunity to express yourself. But it may not look like an opportunity. This fool come ask you, how do you feel about this and that, while you're in a weird place like that? But you also were given the opportunity to stand on yourself. No, man, I don't want that. But you don't have to be offended by it or offend the other person, because they're also taking a risk too, because they can be embarrassed by that too, because they didn't all the way touch you, they didn't already force themselves, but they were letting you know exactly that they're actually attracted to you like that. So I just want to point that out, is that that's significant. But that too, a lot of people are a little bit fixated, not fixated, but people have a concept of trauma as being a problem, as something that we need to get past. This whole society needs to get past trauma. We're suffering with trauma, all of us. Hey man, this person, we can appreciate that everybody got, yeah man, we're all dealing with some form of trauma, but also shut the hell up and don't bring your best self or yourself at all somewhere. Don't be yourself somewhere, but also don't be traumatized. But I'm also traumatizing you right now for saying that. So what I'm saying is that what's the problem? What is punishing about trauma is that it's impacting your ability to express yourself, and nobody can express yourself as you do. But also nobody cares to express themselves as you do. That's part of your expressing yourself, but also you're caring to express yourself, getting to express yourself, enjoying life. So if you had been traumatized, or you are experiencing where you feel like devastation or setback for being traumatized, the bigger setback is that it's preventing you from feeling congruent enough to be courageous enough to venture yourself enough, to have venturing yourself enough, to become more of yourself enough, to the point that you are content with yourself, being yourself, bold enough to to be enough of yourself, to get to be yourself, to be enough of yourself, to have the standpoint and the courage to practice being yourself, to get to practice being yourself, to get to be yourself. That's what's punishing about trauma. However, if you were to seek out support for trauma, you are ostensibly invited to venture, that is, share your trauma. However, the person who is meeting you to understand your trauma has a preconceived notion of what trauma is and what your trauma is, not knowing you, not experiencing life as you. That too, they have a financial incentive to engage you or people like you, if not you, such as to pay their debts and or their investments and or their present lifestyle. That can constitute a conflict of interest, because their interest is broader than, deeper than, beyond you merely transcending your trauma. Although they are presenting themselves as interested in your trauma, they are in fact interested, but they're interested different than what may be your best interest. And they likely didn't present that to you in their invitation to you or in their experience with you, which is a further conflict of interest and could be further of iatrogenics, that is damage caused by a healer, laid upon someone that's already been and or understands themselves to be compromised by an experience that they have yet to gain the best from. Because all of your experiences are a blessing, even those that are punishment, because such is to experience life, which is a blessing. So I wanted to riff on that a little bit, but also to say that even if you were to go to a venue to heal trauma, like a healing venue, there are overtones and implications of politics and social standing, that is entitlement, stature, that can be arbitrary, nobility, and also that too, different incentives that are not presented to a person that go beyond and can also conflict with getting to the point of expressing yourself. Because if you're yet stifled by notions of being appropriate to another person's term, that is further traumatizing, because that is further stifling, which is what trauma is doing, is to stifle a person. And that too, if you would be bold enough to have a channel like this, a YouTube channel, where you have the opportunity to venture statements publicly and get the feedback, to be an authentic intellectual, to be a respected intellectual, and or some of your greatest people, your most expressive people, that is your greatest people, would be an intellect and or an artist. And intellect actually is an artist. You're an artist within and upon ideas. That is an artist part excellent. But very few people are respected as an intellect. It's not that intellectualism is not respectable or sometimes respected. is that most people don't get to attempt to practice to get to present themselves and get feedback as an intellectual, not unless they are vetted by under the auspices of an institution that grants nobility, such as the nobility as to be an intellectual, which is a noble reality, but also title. So you may not get the title to be respected enough, to practice enough, to venture enough, to have this the savviness and skill enough, to have the real pedigree enough to be an intellectual under normal circumstance, unless say you come from a family, you come from a family that can pay for you to be somewhere, or somehow affords you the respect somehow to be respected as a thinker. So you can be expected as a thinker seldom with the right precursor and attendant circumstance that has to do with your family, likely, but it's not all of what it is means to or can be to be an intellectual, similar to an artist. But so I wanted to riff on that a little bit, and I guess I'll land that there because I'm feeling the energy come down with that, and I think I got something off my chest there, and I have more to go with that. But it would actually take almost another iteration and beginning to get to the next of that. So I hope that can be valued to someone. But I'm saying that we are exactly punished for our talents. Like if there had been real, we're likely getting punishment and flack for it. But that too, people exactly don't appreciate that which is valuable until it's undeniable. The great Jake Paul, I'm not calling him great because he inspired me. Jake Paul actually inspired me, so he's great to me. And he said that everything is delusional until it's not. Everybody is a wannabe until they're not. Everybody is a faker, is a pseudo, is a dabbler until they're not. But it takes the courage to practice until you're good enough to not be that which people are saying you're not enough of yourself as. Such that also I want to say is that information has largely proliferated, so restricting information is part of restricting the supply of the control of supply and demand, which is value. So in an information age, as much as you're saying that you talk too much is useless, you actually being online is actually largely useless. Your engagement of social media is largely useless. Your engagement of email is largely useless. Your engagement of scholarship and communication upon digital means is largely useless, but not without value. So to maintain the value of it is to constrict it, as to encourage people to be less of communicating without making it yet illegal. Because by the time that it's illegal to read, you have to, in order to read, you have to write. To write, you have to read. But it's also uncool to express yourself a lot of times at all. And speaking is part of that too. But we're encouraged, first we're encouraged to not talk. Then we're encouraged likely to not read and write, which is the same thing. Then to not speak at all. So now it's cool to not speak. People think it's so damn cool to put your finger over your mouth. Hey man, shut up. It's cool now to shut up. But first it's not cool to talk, then you can't talk. By the time you can't talk, you're asking a lot of trouble, because that's worse than being traumatized. Traumatized, you're stifled, you can't talk, you're dead. Peace out.